Have you heard the news? The Metro Tunnel is now open. Yeah, that's right, the Metro Tunnel. You know, that thing that's been under construction for almost a decade? Yeah, that's finally open. This is a really significant milestone. I mean, really significant. Like, I cannot overstate how significant a milestone the opening of the tunnel is. It will bring about the biggest change to the structure of the suburban railway network since the opening of the City Loop back in the 1980s. Now, despite running a transport channel based in Melbourne, I haven't really gone in depth into the Metro Tunnel. It's not like I don't have any interest in it, I absolutely do. Looking at construction updates for Anzac Station during COVID was what started to steer me towards becoming a rail fan. The main reason I haven't talked about the Metro Tunnel in depth yet is because there's already an infinite number of videos talking about the tunnel anyway, and I wouldn't end up talking about anything that hasn't been covered before. However, since it's opening day, I thought, what the hell, let's do a video on the Metro Tunnel. Now, this video is going to be a bit different to others I've done on this channel. It's a video documenting my personal experience travelling through the Metro Tunnel on the first day of operation. I'm not going to go too in depth into how the Metro Tunnel will change the network or what it is. I've already made a YouTube short about that, and there's plenty of videos by other people explaining this in detail already. Work began on the Metro Tunnel in 2017, so it's been under construction for about 8 years. Let me just give you an idea of how long that's been. When work began on the tunnel, I was in year 6, so I was just a kid. Fast forward to the tunnel opening, and I'm now in my second year of university. So in that time, I went from being a kid to being an adult. So yeah, to say this has been a long time coming is an understatement, and I certainly wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to check out the tunnel on opening day. In fact, I wanted to try and make it onto the first service. This is, after all, a historic moment. And then the timetable came out, and said that the first service to enter the tunnel was going to originate from Sunbury at 9:28 am. I live in Bundoora, and based on information provided by the journey planner, getting there by public transport on a Sunday would take an hour and 52 minutes, unless I were to take a V-Line train. Getting on at any intermediate stations closer to the city would also be extremely impractical, as the first Metro Tunnel service would probably already be full by the time it got to Footscray. And from what I heard on the day, my suspicions were most certainly correct. So I instead tried the southeast side and saw that the first service was to originate from East Pakenham. Immediately upon seeing that, it became clear that getting on the first service would just be impractical, and I decided to just hop on one of the later trains at Caulfield. So I started my day at about 7 am, making my normal trip into the city on Route 86. I took the tram as far as Parliament Station, where I then hopped on a City Loop train, which was weirdly enough a Sunbury train, to Flinders Street, and then onto a Pakenham train towards Caulfield. Now, my initial plan was to get off at Caulfield and hop on one of the first services there, but I'd overestimated how long it would take me to get out there, and I ended up at Caulfield half an hour earlier than I had intended. So when I got there, I made the split-second decision to stay on the train and continue out to Westall. In hindsight, this was probably the best split-second decision I'd ever made in my entire life. So, my new plan now was to go to Westall, get a shot of the first Metro Tunnel service there, and then catch the following train into the tunnel. So, I got to Westall, got some shots of some regular services there, including my train departing the station, and before long, I could see the inaugural Metro Tunnel train in the distance emerging from the trench at Springvale. As it slowed into the platform, I realised that there was still quite a bit of space in the last few carriages, because no one ever thinks to board there. So, I jumped at the opportunity to be a part of Melbourne train history, and got on. From there came the agonising journey back into the city. Basically all the passengers that were there on the train were there for the same reason I was, the tunnel, and the excitement began to build as we made our way through the suburbs. This excitement only continued to build as we passed through Oakley and soared above the suburbs on the Skyrail through Hughesdale, Murrumbeena and Carnegie. Then, soon enough, we were approaching Caulfield.
Now arriving at Caulfield. Change here for Frankston services.
It's at this point that the train started to get really crowded. There were a lot of people who got on the train at Caulfield, and we all really had to squeeze in. Honestly, we were packed in like sardines. This is why I realised my split-second decision to wait at Westall was the best decision I had ever made. Had I waited at Caulfield, I probably wouldn't have been able to make it onto the first train, and I probably would have ended up regretting that for the rest of my life. From Caulfield, the train only began to get busier as more people got on at Malvern. Then after that, the anticipation and excitement really began to build further as we sped past Armadale, Toorak and Hawkesburn, and before long, we were approaching the tunnel entrance.
Summer where you can like get stamps and stuff. Oh, cool. He said,
We're not in yet. Here we go. Yeah! At roughly 10:10 a.m, HCMT set number 41 became the first westbound revenue passenger train to enter the metro tunnel. Continuing through the tunnel, the excitement began to build even further as we approached the first station, Anzac. Yeah! Woo! Then we immediately felt sorry for the passengers who were waiting on the platform, as they had to try and squeeze in with the rest of us. A couple of passengers did manage to make it into the carriage I was on, and I imagine the situation wasn't much different on the other 6 carriages. The fact that we were all packed in pretty much like sardines did feel a bit uncomfortable. I'm a person who really values his personal space, and I don't really like being in crowded places, but I was willing to sacrifice a small bit of comfort for the opportunity to be a part of Melbourne train history. Soon enough, we were passing under the Yarra River, and before long, we were at Town Hall.
Now arriving at Town Hall. Here for Richards Gate Station and City Loop services.
At this point, more people piled in, and it was starting to become pretty difficult for people to get out of the train. After departing Town Hall, I decided that I wanted my personal space back, so I hopped off the train at the next station, State Library.
Now arriving at State Library. Change here for Melbourne Central Station and City Loop services.
I had been to State Library before, as I had managed to get a ticket to the open day back in October, and the station hadn't really changed since then. So I hung around State Library for a bit. There wasn't anything new I really wanted to check out there. The only thing I did really was go up to the concourse and grab myself a flag. A nice little memento for the day. Although I didn't think to grab myself some badges, which is something I ended up regretting later. After that, I went back down to platform level and hopped on the next westbound train, which I took to the next station, Parkville. This was the first station I got off at, which I hadn't seen in person yet. And of course, I made sure to log it down in my list of stations I visited. Immediately upon stepping off the train at Parkville, I realised that one of the escalators wasn't working, so I walked up to the end of the platform to use the set of escalators that was working. The escalators lead up to the main concourse, half of which lies within the unpaid area of the station and functions as a pedestrian subway under Royal Parade. The unpaid side of the concourse features some shops, including this 7-Eleven.
Oh, hell yeah, 7-Eleven.
I later learned this wasn't the only 7-Eleven in the tunnel. After checking out the 7-Eleven, I then took the escalators up to the Grattan Street East entrance, which I didn't film because I had a donut in my hand. Upon reaching surface level, I saw that it had already started to rain, so I decided to go back down to the platforms and hop on the next train. I decided I wanted to go back to Anzac, which was the station I was most eager to see. Yeah, I know, I passed through there on the first train. I don't know why I didn't bother to get off. So I made my way down to platform 2 and got on the next eastbound train to Anzac. Now, at this point, I should point out something. I had initially only planned to spend part of my day down in the tunnel. Coincidentally enough, SteamRail Victoria was running steam shuttles on the Werribee line between Newport and Laverton, with the shuttle running via the Altona Loop for the return journey. This was the first time a public steam train had run via the Altona line in almost 11 years, so of course, I booked a ticket. This was before they had announced the opening date. Great timing, SteamRail. So the plan was that I was going to hang around the tunnel for a bit in the morning, after which I would then take a train to Footscray and change there for a Werribee train to take me to Laverton. This is another reason why I chose to enter the tunnel from the southeast side, rather than from the Footscray end. It made more sense given where I had planned to go later in the day. Anyway, I arrived at Anzac, and immediately realised that I didn't have as much time to hang around there as I thought I did. So I immediately crossed to the other side of the platform to hop on a westbound train to go to Footscray. After passing through Arden, I emerged back into the sunlight at South Kensington, where I was greeted with the all too familiar scenes of the inner west, and also a comment on an Up Werribee service. Before long, we were at Footscray. It's at this point that my plans went pear-shaped. You see, while I was on the train to Footscray, a person had tragically been struck and killed by a train at Seaholme. This meant that my connecting train to Werribee was cancelled, and of course, the next one wasn't due in another half an hour, meaning I would miss the steam train at Laverton. So with my plans to go to Laverton in disarray, I decided to spend the rest of my day in the tunnel, and hopped on the next train back towards Arden. Before long, we plunged back into the darkness. I then got off at Arden Station. Arden is another station I'd already been to before the opening, as I went to the sneak peek back at the end of August. Of all the Metro Tunnel stations, Arden is probably the least interesting, as there isn't really anything there right now. It's supposed to be the centre of an urban renewal project, which hasn't begun yet, and until the surrounding area is redeveloped, I suspect Arden will be a pretty quiet station. However, Arden does have by far the most impressive entrance building of all the Metro Tunnel stations, and features these large brick archways, which is apparently a nod to this area's industrial past. Anyway, I then went and took a tram to Errol Street to have lunch, and when I came back, I managed to grab a station badge. This is the only badge I managed to get on the day, sadly, as they all managed to sell out. I already had the State Library one from the open day in October, so I just have to get the remaining 3 to complete the set. Apparently Tunnel HQ are going to get some more badges over the coming month. Hopefully those don't sell out as quickly. So I went back down to the platforms, hopped on the next train, and went back to Parkville to get a better look at the station. I went and got some actual footage of the Grattan Street East entrance, and also got some footage of the concourse and the entrance on Royal Parade. Although I didn't actually go outside as it was still raining. I must say, of all the station entrances, Parkville's are by far the most lacking. Although to be fair, they didn't really have a lot of space to work with. They're these very narrow glass structures, which I don't think look too bad, although they aren't as impressive as some of the entrances at the other stations. I must say though, Parkville is probably my second favourite of all the stations. Of course, it's not my actual favourite because Anzac. Anyway, after checking out the entrances, I went down to platform level and hopped on another train to go to Town Hall, the only station I hadn't stepped foot in at this point. By now, I had actually maxed out the storage on my phone from all the filming I had done so far, so I don't actually have any footage from Town Hall on opening day. However, I did go back the following Wednesday, which was the next day with actually decent weather, and got some proper footage then. The platforms at Town Hall look almost identical to the ones at State Library, with large arches and high vaulted ceilings. Going up to concourse level, I was quite impressed. It's a really spacious area with columns holding up another vaulted ceiling. This space has been nicknamed the Crypt, in reference to St Paul's Cathedral, which is directly above the station. After checking out the concourse, I went up the escalators to the only entrance that's open at the moment, the entrance from City Square, which was completely rebuilt as part of the project. The entrance at City Square sits under this large glass shelter, which I must say did a pretty decent job of keeping me dry. Yeah, it was still raining. I didn't check out City Square properly on opening day on account of the weather. As for the other two entrances, the ones from Swanston Street and Federation Square, they aren't finished yet, and aren't expected to be completed until sometime next year. Anyway, after checking out the City Square entrance, I went back down to platform level and hopped on the next train to go to Anzac. Like at Town Hall, I wasn't able to get too much footage here without maxing out my phone's storage, so most of the footage you're seeing here was taken on the following Wednesday. By now, it's pretty clear that Anzac is my favourite of all the Metro Tunnel stations. Hey, I just think the tram interchange is the coolest thing ever. Like at Parkville, the main concourse under St Kilda Road has shops, including another 7-Eleven. The main entrance to the station is in the middle of the tram stop, making this by far the best tram-to-train connection in Melbourne. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the only place in Melbourne where you can change from a tram to a train without crossing a single lane of road traffic, although there are some places that come pretty close. Cough cough Glen Huntley. The entrance from the tram platform is also located under this large timber canopy, which is by far the station's most defining structure. Aside from the entrance on the tram platform, there are also 2 other entrances on Domain Road and Albert Road. I didn't go to the Albert Road entrance on opening day, but I did check out the one on Domain Road. The Domain Road entrance is right next to the Domain Parklands and is the entrance you would use if you want to go to, say, the shrine. It's a pretty basic design which is used for a lot of the smaller entrances at most of the stations. Look, here's an almost identical one on Royal Parade at Parkville, although it does manage to blend in pretty well with the surrounding parkland. Anyway, after checking out Anzac, I hopped on a train back to Town Hall and went through the new underground connection to Campbell Arcade and Flinders Street. Then I hopped on a Mernda train from Flinders Street Platform 1 and went back home. So that was pretty much my experience of opening day. Being able to ride on the first westbound train through the tunnel was an almost euphoric experience. The atmosphere aboard the train was just pure joy and excitement, and the memory of entering the tunnel for the first time is something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. The fact that I filmed all of this will probably help too. So, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed what is a slightly unconventional video for the channel. I only started working on this video the day after opening day, so this has to be by far the quickest I've ever put a video together. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you have your own Metro Tunnel opening day experience you would like to share, feel free to do so in the comments. I would certainly love to hear them. Feel free to join the Discord server, link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
When you can get stabbed and stuff.
We're not in yet. Here we go.